Here we have AP calculus AB problem. Okay, let's go to the question. Here we have a definite integral, that is integral negative 3 to 2 absolute value of x over x positive 3 dx. We have to evaluate the value of this definite integral. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider the integrand we have over here. In integrand we have addition of two terms, that is absolute value of x divided by x positive 3. Since we have addition of two terms in the integrand, we can take this different integral separately for this one, and we can add the two integrals, that is negative 3 to 2 absolute value of x over x dx positive integral negative 3 to 2 3 dx. Okay, how do we have to integrate this particular stuff, that is absolute value of x over x? So for that, first we have to redefine this absolute value of x as a piecewise function. So let's consider the absolute value of x over here. Now let me consider the stuff we have inside the absolute value, that is x. Okay, now let me equate this x to 0 and solve for x. When I equate it to 0 and solve for x, still I am getting x equals to 0. Now I have to mark this value 0 on the number line. On the left side of 0, all the values will be negative, that is x will take negative values on the left side of 0. On the right side of 0 over here, all the values will be positive, that is x will take positive value. Okay, when x is less than 0, so the stuff inside the absolute value, this x is a negative. So then we have absolute value of x equals to negative x. So when x is less than 0, let me write the stuff over here. And also, when I consider the right side of 0, x will be greater than 0. That is, this x will be positive. So we have just x when x is greater than 0. Now I have redefined this absolute value of x as a piecewise function, that is absolute value of x equals to negative x when x is less than 0, that is when x is negative. And absolute value of x is redefined as positive x when x is greater than 0, that is a positive value. Okay, now let me erase this stuff. Okay, now what I am going to do is I am going to consider the lower limit and upper limit of this integral. Now let me mark these two values on the number line. Let me mark it. Let me draw a number line. And on the left side extreme I am taking negative 3. On the right side extreme I am taking 2. In between them I have 0. Okay, now instead of writing single integral over here, that is from negative 3 to 2, what I am going to do is I am going to write this one as two different integral. One is from negative 3 to 0 and other one is from 0 to 2. So when I add the two different integral, that is equal to the different integral from negative 3 to 2. Okay, now let me write the stuff over here. So now I am going to split up this definite integral into two parts. That is, the first part is from negative 3 to 0, absolute value of x divided by x times dx positive. Now let me take 0 to 2, absolute value of x divided by x dx positive. Okay, here 3 is a constant multiplied by dx. In integration, whenever there is a constant in the integrand, there is a constant multiplied in the integrand, so we can move the constant out of the integrand, then the 3 times negative 3 to 2 dx. Okay, let's consider the two different integrals over here. When I combine these two different integrals, that is equal to this single different integral, that is negative 3 to 0 and 0 to 2. When I combine them, I am getting a different integral from negative 3 to 2. Okay, now let's consider the integrand over here, particularly the absolute value of x. Now consider the limits of x. We have limits of x from negative 3 to 0. When x takes a value from negative 3 to 0, that is in this interval, the value of x will be less than 0. That is, x will take negative values between negative 3 and 0. So when x is less than 0, absolute value of x is redefined as negative x. Already we have done this when x is less than 0. Since x is less than 0 between negative 3 and 0, this absolute value of x will be redefined as negative x. Let me write the stuff over here. Negative 3 to 0, it will be redefined as negative x divided by x dx positive. Now let's consider the second definite integral we have over here. So x takes the value from 0 to 2. So between 0 and 2, all the values of x will be positive, that is x is greater than 0. When x is greater than 0, the absolute value of x will be redefined as a positive x. So since x takes a positive value in this definite integral between 0 and 2, so this absolute value of x will be redefined as a positive x, then divided by x dx positive 3 times. Integration of dx is just x, and for this result we have to apply the limits, negative 3 as the lower limit and 2 as the upper limit. Okay, here this x will cancel, we just get 1 over here, and we can move this negative sign out of this integral, then we get a negative integral negative 3 to 0, we get 1 over here, 1 times dx is just dx positive. So x over x, that is x will cancel, it becomes 1, we get 0 to 2, 1 times dx is dx positive 3 times Now we can plug in the limits for the result over here. We can plug in the upper limit 2 for x over here, negative. Always we have to take negative sign before we plug in the lower limit. Now in this result, we have to plug in this lower limit, negative 3. So that is negative 3. Okay, now we have to do further simplification of this one. Okay, now let me erase this stuff and continue the problem. Negative. When I integrate this dx, I'm just getting x, and for this result, I have to take the limits, so that is negative 3 to 0. Positive. When I integrate this dx also, I'm getting the same result, that is x, and let me plug in, let me take the given limits of the integral, that is 0 to 2, positive 3 times 2. Okay, here when I multiply this negative and negative, it will become positive 3. Okay, here now in this result, I just have to plug in the limits. First I have to plug in the upper limit, then I'm getting 0. Before we plug in the lower limit, we have to take a negative sign. Now we have to plug in this lower limit, negative 3 for this x. Then I'm getting negative 3 over here, positive. Now let me plug in the upper limit 2 for x over here. Then I'm getting 2. Now let's take negative sign. Plug in the lower limit 0 for x over here. Then we get 2, negative 0. Positive 3 times 2 positive 3 is 5. Okay, here and negative. We can skip this 0. Negative times negative is positive. That is, we get positive 3. Positive 3 times negative sign will be negative 3 over here. Positive 2 minus 0 is 2. Positive 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, now let's combine these three numbers. 15 positive 2 is 17. 17 negative 3 is 14. Okay, now I just got the value of this given definite integral. Its value is 14. We find 14 in answer choice D. The correct answer choice for this question is D.